Hey there friends, Dave Paulides and Huck, Canam Missing Project Copyrighted Edition for a video channel. And we are both here for this missing person video. And Huck's excited to be here. You can tell she's just a good girl, looking to have some belly rubs and happy that Dad's taking care of her, and yeah, she's a good girl. So I just wanted to let you know that everything is normal in the Paulides household, and we're going to be back on with the videos on missing people. So it is beautiful here in northern Montana if you like 90 plus degree heat, and yes, that's what I'm talking about. It is brutally hot, and last 5 years or so, it's just been that way here. And even the locals have talked about how hot it is. So, for what that's worth. So anyhow, I have one very lengthy case to talk to you about today. And then I have one regular length case to talk to you about today. Missing people. Stunning cases. The letters I have today are some of the best ever. And I appreciate you guys for sending them in. Some of the thoughts that are generated by what I've done are explained when people do these letters. And I can tell that I am pushing you guys to think outside the box, which is great. And I appreciate it. Now, in my previous video that I did on a book review of Skinwalker Ranch, I talked about the Brown Mountain Lights up in North Carolina. And some of you have heard of them, many of you have seen them, and then many of you talked about other lights that are known around at other mountains throughout the US. And some of you said, well, why would you even talk about this? Well, if you haven't followed our work, I'm talking about blue orbs. And orbs in general, and what's behind those orbs. And in the Skinwalker book review, Skinwalkers at the Pentagon, I talked about these blue orbs causing serious physical harm to some people. And I think that's important. Huck just left the room, and she came back and she brought her little ball that she's been playing with, and so anyhow, that's why we're talking about orbs and lights in the sky, because there's a lot more to this than what some people are telling you. So let's get into the letters. Friends, as much as I want to keep you guys out of trouble, some of you aren't paying attention. But many of you are, and a lot of you sent in this latest article. This is on MSNBC, August 21st, 2022. Headlines: TikTok's in-app browser can monitor your keystrokes, including passwords and credit cards, researcher says. I've told you at least 5 times in the last 6 months to stay far away from TikTok. Don't have it on your phone. Get rid of it. Don't open TikTok things that people send you. Stay away from it. It's dangerous. It's a Chinese spy tool. The military has given these instructions to military personnel, and the government has told you 2 years ago, stay away from it. Have you ever clicked open a link and while scrolling through an app on a mobile phone? New research has revealed some of the data popular apps can track and collect while using in-app browsers. Software engineer and security researcher Felix Krauss has assessed what code is injected onto a website to gather user activity when it is opened through an app. These include any ads or links clicked through a creator's profile. For example, any link clicked through TikTok will open within the app using the platform's in-app browser rather than a default browser like Chrome or Safari. That's the tricky part of this. You think you're opening it through your own web browser, and you're not. It's going through theirs to collect the data. The JavaScript code embedded by TikTok allows the company to monitor all keystrokes, the equivalent of a keylogger, as well as every tap on the screen and text inputs, including passwords and credit card information. You are crazy if you're using TikTok. Crazy. The problem is, if they do have the infrastructure and the systems in place to be able to track all these keystrokes, then it's a huge problem. This is from an independent researcher. Now, we've had others tell us before from the government about this. Later on, it says it's alarming to see how much information can be tracked that people aren't aware of, including potentially any user interaction with a website. The issue appears widespread, with tracking code observed in the apps of Facebook, Instagram, as well as TikTok. TikTok confirmed the existence of the code and claimed they were not collecting user data using the injected code. Oh, of course not. They would never do that. Now, in the past, I've told you, and I'll tell you again, the owners of TikTok are a Chinese-based company. Every company based in China, every company has to respond to the government, the Chinese Communist Party. Just the facts. I'm trying to keep you guys out of trouble. That's why I'm talking about this. Is that right, Huck? Yeah, it's a good girl. So, got a note responding to the Brown Mountain Lights. Hey, Dave, thank you for your last video. I was wanting to tell you I've seen the Brown Mountain Lights. In '94, one of my older brother's friends asked me if I wanted to go see them, and I jumped at the chance. In school, the teachers told us about an old tale about two brothers that got lost and were looking for each other with lanterns. What you said about people thinking it was car lights or train, you can see car lights and tell a huge difference, at least I could tell. I don't know why, but I've never been back to see them. I'm going to try to go back and get a video, hopefully. I'll be able to do this. Thank you again for all of your great videos and content. God bless. I probably got 50 emails or notes about people that have seen the Brown Mountain Lights, people that live in the area. They said, no, it's not cars, it's not trains. That's all the government trying to just wash it away. Okay. Next email is greetings from New Zealand. All you guys out there know I love to fish. One of the things on my bucket list is getting to New Zealand and going trout fishing. I had a friend a few years back go, and he said, Dave, it was absolutely unbelievably gorgeous, and the fishing was unbelievably good. My kind of place. And that probably would have been something that Angie and I would have done on a book tour after Australia. But since COVID kind of took over the last couple of years, those plans kind of put on hold. But love to get on a tour to New Zealand, meet all the great friends out there. So this is from one of them. It says, I thought I should write to you with my experiences. My father was in the Air Force, and our family has known about UFOs from Blenheim, as has been reported from the 70s. So as a kid, I was aware of it. I started having sightings of UFOs back around 2016. My first was a daylight sighting of a bright red orb about the size of a house. It was flying around the sky. I thought it was a skyrocket, but it flew around and then parked itself in front of a cloud. I quickly grabbed someone to view the object just before it flew off at what looked like light speed, and they confirmed it as I had seen it. I was milling timber up at a friend's place, and I had been watching many bright lights in the sky, and I didn't think much of it until one night I'm out working on his road with the excavator at about 11 p.m. I was feeling like giving up, so I walked to the top of the driveway where the barn was. When I got to the top of the hill, I saw a round, red, glowing orb, 40 meters around, sitting above a pine tree. 40 meters away, sitting above a pine tree, 1 meter round. I thought I'd go wake up my friend and show him, but to no luck, he wouldn't wake up, so I carried on just watching this thing well until towards it came about 20 meters off the ground, then sat above another pine tree 50 meters in front of me. A lot of times, people will have these experiences, and they'll be sleeping next to their partner, or you're trying to wake up your friend, and they won't wake up. It's almost as though something wants just you to see it and controls the wakeness of the people around you. It seems like that. I felt as if it was going to leave, and as I thought that, it moved along to the last tree 200 meters away from me, sat there for another 2 minutes, and then at what I could only guess is it traveled from here to the moon in a second. There was no sound, no hum, just silence. The next sighting, I was staying in the same location by myself, milling more trees. I'd been watching many lights over the time, so I got really used to it. Some nights I'd see up to 15 flying around the hills and the sky. My friend who lived an hour away decided to come up and bring some supplies. I had told him what I was seeing, and he laughed and asked if I was on drugs, but I said no, but I think I need some after last night. So as he rolled up, I told him what I had seen. He still laughed at me and said, yeah, right. I thought to myself, wouldn't it be funny if they turned up tonight? Well, wouldn't you know it? They did. Five crafts showed up. They were triangular in shape with a light on each corner, red, blue, yellow lights. There was movement. They were erratic and very fast. There was also one off to the right on the hill in the distance, dropping down what looked like drops of lights to earth. I showed him what I was seeing, and he completely lost it and freaked out. We are leaving on the lights all night, he said. Between your channel and Steve's channel on hunting, I see many others are having lots happening. I enjoy all listening to both of you guys and wish you discover the truth behind all this. Many people have stated that they see these things dropping from these craft. And you can't really see where they drop to, but other people have said that they drop, they form into an orb, and they fly away. And it's almost as though that maybe in the big craft, these are little pods that they let loose that have things in them. I have no idea. This is what people have said. Well, thanks for the report from New Zealand. Hopefully I'll get there one of these days. Hey Dave, I have a theory on a couple of things dealing with portals and missing and deaths. Not only portals, but there was an alien abduction return. This theory could play into a few things that you talk about. Driving across Wyoming, listening to some of your stories in the emails, I had a thought. The terrain elevation raises and lowers within a few steps, sometimes a few feet, sometimes hundreds, and in some places thousands of feet in elevation up and down. If a portal were linear, just a straight path, these could come into play. If someone were walking and entered a portal unknowingly, no one knows what happens when entering. So let's say time changes for the person entering it. 5 steps could be a day, maybe more. Here's where the theory comes into play. The person who enters has no clue how to exit, or might not be aware they even entered it. But unknowingly, they exit, let's say the 5 steps is 2 miles. And then let's assume it is 2 days, whatever path they're on. The portal elevation stays the same. So in 5 steps, they cover 2 miles, and 2 days have elapsed. They exit the portal 300 feet above the ground and fall to their death in a spot that was possibly previously searched. Or insofar where they were going, it hasn't been searched. Let's say the same scenario, but the 5 steps equals 2 miles and 100 feet underground into a hillside in the direction where they were headed. There would be no finding them. Whatever they had with them would be buried and gone. Dogs would have no trace. Some of the injuries that you speak of when they are found were previously searched and appeared to be dropped off from above. It could be something like this. It would also explain some of the instances where people that are following and then are somehow way ahead of their group if the portal elevation stayed the same. With only a few steps, any memory would be distorted. Think along the same lines if there was an abduction. If the alien working the transport beam Scotty sent them back to the coordinates they were taken from, But with time, each rotation, human DNA, who knows what mapping technology would be used. Maybe it doesn't work the same, and there's a reason 100 feet above or below an area would be taken, either dead or simply buried forever, not on purpose, but the end result is death. God bless you and family. One of the things I always think about is if something or someone or somebody is taking us, the question always has to be, why? Is it for reproductive reasons? Is it for DNA? Is it something embedded in our chemistry that they need for something else? We all know of people, I knew of a couple that have never had a cold. So do they have some kind of immunity? I've known others that have never had the flu. So is there something embedded in them that's different than us that somebody wants? Is there something in their behavior? What do I mean by that? We've all known people that have a very high level of patience. And there's others out there that have none. Well, if you're going to work in a society where there was no violence, where there was no arguments, you'd want someone with high level of patience, understanding, compassion, empathy. So, is that what they're looking for? Are they trying to get the cream of the crop? As I've talked about in past books, in Sobering Coincidence, Missing 411, A Sobering Coincidence, it seemed like everyone they were taking was a young, athletic, highly educated white male. I'm just giving you the facts. This isn't racist. This is just the facts. I don't know. Just got to talk this stuff out sometimes. So, this email has a lot of thoughts. So, I'm going to give you some time. Go out, get your cup of coffee, almond croissant, cinnamon twist, a Danish. Sit back in your chair, have the coffee in your hand, be looking at the great outdoors, and here we go. Hey Dave, I was watching an older episode, catching up on my missed videos. There was a letter you read that discussed a veil type scenario. I've written in and I can't tell you how excited and proud I was at the moment where you actually read one of my other emails, so thank you for that. I'll never forget it. But my theory is not so much based off the veil, but an idea that stemmed from the hearing your letter. Time is non-linear. There is no past, present, or future. All the time is happening instantly. Portals have always been the front runner for my string of ideas and theories, but something I didn't think about until watching the video was the fact that we almost never see or find these people while they are currently missing. The other question I always struggled with was their causes of death and the inability to procure a logical one. Now, what if these people are slipping into portals not by an evil presence or for a study, but by mere fate? Perhaps they slip into a parallel dimension where the location they were and then find themselves in is drastically and geographically different than the one before. So I don't want to kill this thought from the beginning, but I'm going to kill it right from the beginning. If people accidentally slipped into a portal, someone would eventually see it. Why not slip into one in downtown New York City amongst 100,000 people if they just randomly appeared? Why wouldn't you be on a playground at a high school or a college or junior high and everyone's on the field and they watch Johnny go running down the basketball court and just disappear because he slipped into a portal? But it doesn't happen. It's never happened. And therein lies why the smartest people I've talked to, the physicists, believe this is targeted by an intellectual type entity. But I'll go on. As an example, mountains didn't form where they were before. Towns weren't established in the same places as the world they knew. A parallel world could have been formed in many different ways. So the items left behind could be ones that were in fact not invented or did not exist in the parallel universe they slipped into. Cell phones, a world not as technologically advanced. A wallet, a world still in the era of barter and trading goods. Shoes, clothing, you get the picture. If material items are left behind when the victims go missing, I'd also speculate that when the body returns to this plane, that maybe their death was inflicted by something that does not exist in this world. Therefore, not being physically present on the body and untraceable during autopsy. You have discussed GHB in a few videos and how second opinion autopsies have shown high levels, super high levels in their system. But as I was researching GHB, I found a study on people that naturally have high levels than someone deemed healthy. Yes, GHB is produced in the body in microscopic amounts. Higher levels than others means microscopically higher levels, not super high levels like you find in the people that are abducted. These people include ones with heart disease, diabetes, and a lot of other ailments that riddle much of the missing 411 victims. Now, I'm not discounting the theory around it, I'm just would share that piece of the information. Could it be that the bodies of the missing that show back up in areas previously searched were the ones stuck in to their training and stayed around the area they knew they'd be found, or that they somehow managed to succumb to the elements in an unknown world but were returned home upon their death? As for the ones that experience proximity to these rips in the fabric of time, they are still here to tell us their stories. They weren't meant for other worlds. Their timeline is to remain present here in this one. As for the fear and dread they experience, I'd like to think that it was a cast on them by higher dimensional entities that they knew how to encumber our 3D vessels, the warning signs per se. I'd also like to note that feeling fear and dread is painless. I read that, when I read this, I read that same sentence 3 times. Fear and dread is painless. I'm sorry, I disagree with that. When Ben died, I had dread. I had horrible dread. Some of the most painful things I've ever experienced in my life. So no, the thought of moving forward was dreadful. I know it may sound weird and random, but I genuinely believe that this isn't being done by evil or darkness. I feel it is common for us to categorize things in the simplest of manner. We like to chalk up things we don't understand as scary or bad. I think that just shows why we are still such lesser beings when it comes to dimensional state. The thing that enslaves us to the 3D lifestyle is fear. It is the only thing that keeps us from experiencing those higher dimensions. And if it were let go, we would ascend. How do you know that? Those are nice words, but how do you know that? So while all religions are fundamentally the same, that's another one I don't agree with, that there is a God, would it be naive to think it was only to overlook Earth? This one version of Earth, that he would allow this evil in the world, that free will looks different on everyone, and what you do with that has more to do with the nature of your life and experiences. But I digress. So I mentioned before about it being their fate, the longing, the seeming attraction these people have to enter the forest and disappear forever. There are moments in time that need to exist for our world to continue being the experience we know of today. So what if these victims were always going to disappear, and what if they had to disappear to keep from creating a paradox? These events had to take place. They had to disappear. Well, on the same end of that scale, you could also say, well, the people that died when they were young, maybe they had to die for whatever reason. The possible extraterrestrial, interdimensional forces and beings present in these moments were more like the keepers of time, ensuring that these people fulfill their destiny. With the dreams and their correlation to finding bodies of the missing, the struggle is trying to understand why they are being projected into people's subconscious. Not because they can happen, but as to why they happen. Why would a seemingly vicious entity pluck a person off a planet and cause their death, want them so desperately to be found? Well, I think it's interesting that this person uses the word vicious entity and cause their death. I've said this before, but I have to remind you again. The ant farm technology, or the ant farm theory. Earth is a giant ant farm. And we were placed here to grow, expand on our DNA, study our lifestyle, see how far we could advance, etc., etc. And when they take us, they view us as being such a lesser being, such a nothing, that in their world, it wouldn't be considered vicious to take the ant off Earth, meaning taking us off Earth and maybe plucking our legs and seeing how well we could walk on one leg instead of 2 arms and a foot or whatever. It's the paradigm. And that's where people really have to change how they view this. Closure is for humans. Closure is for the humans, and they don't owe us that. Would a non-guilty third party, incapable and not responsible for their death, want them to be found? I like to think they would. I refer back to a previous statement that they are the keepers of time and oversee the conclusion of fate for these incidences, that they're using their abilities of manipulation to ensure the peace of having closure. And it is not as if they try once and give up. They are persistent until the body is discovered. So to nurture humanly feelings in a way that not even some serial killers are willing to do should say something to us. I will add this side note about what I think happens during cow mutilations. We harvest and butcher cows for their meat to nourish our bodies. We've decided in this timeline that the muscles and fat would be that we harvested. We also harvest many questionable other things for them, such as their tongues and intestines. Now, if I were a visitor to this timeline, that would definitely be seen as weird, mainly because it is. So if these cows are traveling interdimensionally by stumbling into a portal, is the world they enter harvesting them as well? Maybe this world prefers harvesting their organs and blood for consumption. Who are we to judge what is seemingly weird or unable to be harvested? The keeper's time come into play here as well. In our world, losing cattle is losing profit. No body means no insurance aid. Not only are the returned bodies merely to ease our suffering around the experience, but I believe it's for the fellow cows too. Cows have proven to be one of the most emotionally intelligent and capable animals in our world. Are they doing this to ease their suffering as they do ours? That even animals deserve a closure as much as we do. Again, just some thoughts and ideas. Okay. But why cows? Why not elephants? Why not lions? Why not dogs in our front yard and backyards? Why cows? As I've stated before, in some religions, big religions in our world, cows are considered sacred. It's also possible that many of these parallel worlds had a different outcome to World War I. Could the German descent be due to the fact that these parallel worlds they enter lost the war against Hitler? Is it possible that the victims of our timeline had health defects and illnesses in this world but not in the parallel? That when they reached their true timeline, they were relieved of these illnesses, perhaps because they did not belong here originally. Maybe their fates were chosen by them by an all-powerful overseeing God of not just not this earth, but time in general. And these parallel worlds could not progress without these lives being present in them. Most of them highly educated, great moral compasses, highly skilled in a vast array of fields, well-equipped, and a valuable asset. So true. Something else I think about is the way that the family will grieve their losses. The fact that they can't accept the fact that they are really gone from this world. The constant and consistent search for someone who has left no trace behind. Let me say this. I've never had someone disappear from Earth without knowing what happened to them. I've never been a victim of a missing person. But my son did take his life. And I still have a difficult time dealing with that. Every day I have a difficult time with that. No obvious motivation to drive the force behind thinking they are still out there alive somewhere. These feelings that are driving these families, I think, are valid and make a statement. These people are not dead. They are alive out there still, but nowhere we would ever find them. I say this solely based on the feelings of my experience surrounding my own brother's death. He was due home one night and didn't show up. He was missing for 24 hours before we found his body. He was the victim of a flash flood that swept him away in one night 1 mile from our home. The entire time he was missing, my mom knew instinctively that something bad had happened, that he would not find my brother alive. The fact that she leaned into her intuition and trusted her instincts led her to find her son's body. When he was swept from his car, the current had wedged his body between two tall, fallen trees. It was a blessing that he had succumbed to head trauma before entering the water, and that he did not have to experience the suffering of drowning. She found him there between the logs in the creek we played in as kids, completely unclothed from the strength of the current. I tell my story to reiterate the natural occurrences of the beginning stages of our grief, and knowing when somebody that is connected to your soul is no longer present. We knew before we knew. So there's something to be said for these families not experiencing the knowing and their motivations to find them. They are still here, still alive, still connected to their soul families in this time frame. I have another theory as to why we seem to have so many entities and supernatural happenings here on Earth. Time affects every conscious thing ever created. The concept of time and its true understanding is something we're incapable of obtaining. So we have laws and rules to abide in hopes of maintaining peace and order. The chaos ensues when things are broken. These are broken. So since we do not understand time and do not abide by it, it is an authority in our lives. The rules and laws are unknown to us. Now, do I think for a second that there isn't any rules that apply to time? Absolutely not. When they say ignorance is bliss, you know they are from Earth. Yeah, that's true. You know, talking about ignorance, there's a lot of people out there that want to keep their head in the ground, bury it in sand, yell nah, nah, nah with their fingers in their ears and not know anything. I know that's not the people that are here, but you and I know many of them. And I've never understood those people. I couldn't live like that. Laws around time apply to everyone and everything. And Earth is a problem child. And Earth is the problem child of the universe. And as children, we need constant supervision. The issue is that when we break these laws, the repercussions more than just humans. We have been creating these rips in the space-time fabric, and we continue to navigate with the idea that our decisions don't have much larger consequences. Not only are we unstable, unwell, and at large, we are armed. That sentence, and as children, we need constant supervision. Quick story. Again, I live pretty much in the wild of Montana. And behind our house is this open area. And the other day, a mama deer comes in with 2 fawns, all spotted up. One fawn is distinctly smaller than the other. You could tell that they were born at the same time, but one was much larger. And the smaller one kept bugging the bigger one. I mean, we watched it for like a half an hour. Little one would walk up to the big one and take its paw and just kind of peck at the bigger one. And the bigger one just kind of moved away from it. It's like the little one wanted attention. And then eventually the mom, standing like 30 feet away, walks and gets into the middle of them. It's like she knew, just like a human mom would do. Separate the kids from fighting. Angie and I were just laughing. And then to get the bigger one's attention, the little one would do crazy stuff, run around in circles in front of it, jump up high, just to get its attention. It's amazing how young ones of almost all species are kind of the same. And it's fun to watch. So let's talk about animals for a second. If you have an aquarium, when you add in fish to a new tank, they need to be acclimated before release, the risk of biological shock and death. Have dogs and just bought a kitten? Do you go home and throw the cat in the middle of the dogs? No. You slowly introduce the new addition until they can coexist. On a hike, do you see a wild animal and walk up to it for a quick pet? No. But are there lions and predators that have human companionship? Sure. Now let's switch gears. What if we are the wild and untamed predator running loose through the city at time? All I can say is thank God whoever is in charge of the city doesn't treat us the same way we treat a rogue predator. Then again, maybe they have. I referenced the story of Noah. What if the stories and the tellings in the Bible are a representation of our current world and its existence of previously failed timelines? I couldn't think of a better way to try and alter the course of a new timeline than by using a book telling of all the misfortune and unsuccessful attempts in fixing alternate timelines, which is why we study history. It is well known that a lot of people turn away from religion because they cannot believe the story is told within it, that it just seems too impractical and improbable to be factual. They technically wouldn't be wrong because if these are stories from alternate timelines, us in this current timeline would not be able to wrap our minds around the concepts that do not currently exist for us. What if previous lives we led were not in the distant past of this current timeline, but from an alternate failed timeline? I believe that Earth and its actions created a fixed point in time, a devastating one that would wipe out every living thing in the cosmos. I think species that inhabit the far reaches of space know of this fixed point in time, and I think their presence here can be traced back through many different events in times of chaos, only intervening in ways that would steer the destiny of our timeline. There is a desired ending, one that does not end in extinction, and I think that they are fighting hard to achieve it. If we had the knowledge they had and knew of our inevitable fate, the event would be a quantum locked in time and nothing could be done to avoid it. I guess. I know this is a long letter and I do apologize, but I think about this subject a lot, so I have many points to cover. You and the village inspire me. In trying to help you uncover the mystery, you've given me a sense of purpose. You're a role model to so many people. I know this fact surprises you because you are so humble. I'm just bringing you the facts. It can't be iterated enough how much you are appreciated for the positive effects you have on people's lives. You are loved, you are respected, and you do a damn good job of making your son proud. I try. Let's talk about mental health for a second. I told you guys a true story about a high school. There's only 2 high schools up here in the valley. 2 years ago, one of the high schools had a series of suicides. And the student body president, who I met at an offsite for the Good Grief Counseling Group. This young man was their student body president. He was a senior, star athlete, straight A student. And he volunteered his time one weekend to come and be a counselor at this Good Grief counseling session where this Good Grief group brings in kids from all over Montana that have lost a loved one for any reason and teaches them how to deal with grief. And this young man was impressive, very impressive. Well, he went back to school just a couple months after we went to this offsite, and I was still dealing with Ben's death, and his high school suffered these suicides. And he got up in front of the student body and he gave a presentation about the importance of life, how well they have it here, one of the most beautiful places on earth. The accolades he got were overwhelming. And by all appearances, this young man had everything going for him. 2 weeks after giving that presentation, he took his life. My counselor, who's part of that group, told me this week that that young man had a brother, a mom, and a dad. And just this last week, the mom took her life. I don't understand it. I don't understand this world sometimes. It's really hard. What I worry about is I worry about the dad and his brother. They lost their older brother to suicide, and then they lose a mom to suicide. I can't imagine that. I can't imagine what the family's going through that's left. The pain that mom had to have been going through. It's off the chart. And friends, if you don't think dogs have a sixth sense, just in the last couple minutes, Huck just came in the room. She was outside during the whole presentation to this point, and then she came back in. She knows when I get upset. As I stated in Ben's tribute video, when you take your life, it may end your pain, but that pain is then handed off to everybody who loved and liked you. You're passing off a lifetime of pain. When I was going through counseling, it was explained to me that one thing in life that we're never trained in, never told about, is how to manage and deal with grief. Boy, is that true. And after going through all the counseling I've been in, there have been times it feels good to talk to somebody who understands. Because my counselor had a brother that took his life. But damn, there's no easy way out. And I tell you this because I know that there's a lot of people out there, a lot, that have written to me and said that they've thought about suicide. And their perspective about taking their life changed after I talked. If there's just one person out there that's listening and thinking about it, do the work yourself. What I mean by that is call NAMI, N-A-M-I. Get into a counseling session. Some of them are online. Friends, I don't feed you BS. I went to 12 weeks of that class. It helped me immensely. It will help you. I don't really care who you are. There's people out there that truly care about you and love you. There's going to be people. And even the people out there that you think have given up on you, that don't think about you. I have relatives that are like this right now who don't think anybody loves them, that I talk to. That's a sad existence. But there's many people out there in this world that are in really, really rough times right now. And again, it's some of the people you would never think of that are the strongest, most put together. Those are the ones that will really surprise you sometime. As this young man at the high school, I would have never guessed it. So, I don't mean to drag down this presentation, but mental health is a huge topic. It's a huge issue right now. And it's been carrying on since COVID. Things haven't gotten better up here. I worry about us as a society, as a world. I worry about you and me. And we have to take care of each other. We have to look in on each other. So anyhow, enough of that. But really, if you're going through tough times, call NAMI. N-A-M-I. Good people. So the first case, talk about missing people. First case is in an area what we've talked about many times before, that northern Michigan, southern Ontario area. Man named William Pender, 45 years old, missing October 2nd, 1966. He lived in the southern part of Ontario, just on the northern Michigan-Ontario border. He's a moose hunter. And it was described as one of the best moose hunters around. Very experienced outdoorsman. Very experienced in the woods, in the cold. And he was hunting an area 20 miles north of Wawa, W-A-W-A, Ontario. He was last seen at about 7 a.m. on October 2nd. And he and his group split up to hunt. He didn't return that night. And the Ontario Provincial Police were called. The following day, search and rescue started. He was hunting with two men named Lester Long and Robert Poirier, who were also super experienced. They searched for their buddy that first night, couldn't find him, fired off a couple rounds, didn't respond. Well, the OPP brought in two bloodhounds that first day and went in the area where William left his companions at 7 a.m. that morning and said he was going to go out and hunt and be back that night. He had a .308 rifle, matches, dressed very warm, hunted the area many times in the past and knew it like his own backyard. Nobody believed he'd get lost. The search and rescue coordinator actually knew William and said that he was smart. If he was lost, he'd just sit still and he'd know that we'd come and find him. So search and rescue believed that they were going to search about 4 square miles, a 2-mile by 2-mile stretch. He was described as a very calm person. Everyone related to this thought he'd be found within a day. The search location was an area of Canam Lake, and they were camped on the south side. Nobody also believed he was going to go outside that 2-mile radius. Well, they brought in 2 canines from other parts of Ontario. They brought in a helicopter, 100 personnel, and a plane. They searched for 7 days nonstop. Nobody could believe that he wasn't found in the 7 days. 2 months after he disappeared, his family put up a $1,000 reward for people to go out and find him. Now let me explain to where this happened, because it's important and it'll ring true to you. So this is Newberry, Michigan. There's a cluster of missing people right here. Right down here, there's an Air Force base where a U.S. Air Force fighter took off, and I explained this to you in a video, at the request of Canada to chase down an unidentified flying object flying through this area over Lake Superior. The jet got scrambled, went out, got a fix on the UFO, disappeared, was never found. There's also 2 other moose hunters right here that have never been found. So he is in an area called Canam Lake. Lots of water in the area. A moose hunter never found. Now, when you think about 2 other moose hunters gone, UFOs in the area, it's an area bordering Lake Superior where all kinds of strange things have happened. There are some things you can do that you can help yourself. And since hunting season's coming up in a couple months, families and friends pay attention. Here's what hunters should carry at the bare minimum. A trail guide, hard copy of a map, a compass, GPS, a sat phone so you can call somebody for help, extra water, and bars. Tell partners exactly where you're going and when you'll be back, and tell them to call search and rescue if you don't show up. I didn't do this months ago and I forgot and I apologize, but one of the things, and she's a nurse, she's very health-minded, and so she's always my go-to person about what we're going to carry when we go out packing around, hiking. And years ago, when Ben was at Miami one of his friends told us about a Miami graduate who at that time started this company, and they made real quality bars, energy bars. Angie looked into it and said, Dave, these are really healthy and they're really good. We got to get some. So this is going back 3 or 4 years ago, 5 years ago. And they were hard to find then. You can find them pretty easily now. And they're called RX bar. R, Robert X-ray, RX bar. Let me show you. I'm not getting paid to say anything positive about this. I never do. I'm doing this for you, the village. As an example, this RX bar is mixed berry. In it, it has 3 egg whites, 6 almonds, 4 cashews, 2 dates, and no BS. Good bar. So, in our collection that we have in the closet right now, we've got mixed berry and blueberry. Those are the 2 I like, but they have all different kinds of flavors. But when you look at what's in the bar, how much protein is in the bar, and how much fat and bad fat and good fat, this is the bar that we carry all the time. So, I'm sorry I never got back to you months ago about that. I apologize. But those RX bars are really good. So, next case. This one is a mind bender. When I first started to look into it, I was confused. It took me a couple days to get my arms around it. So I'm going to do my best to give it to you. Pamela Smith, 23 years old, missing August 24th, 1975. And she lived on a dairy farm with her husband. And it was just east of Green Forks, Indiana. They lived on Indiana Highway 38 west of Grove Road. Her and her husband had been married since February of 75. It was now August of that year, so they'd been married about 6 months. They leased a 200-acre dairy farm. Anybody who knows anything about dairy farms, hardest working people on earth. I'm not kidding you. You wake up super early, you stay up super late. He had Holsteins, and they were doing well. And Pam's friend said that she was very happily married, liked the farm life. The population of Green Fork, little tiny place, 423 people. And it was one of those places in Indiana that had a river running through it, coincidentally. Pam was a '69 graduate of Richmond High School. She was considered to be religious, went to a Methodist church. Her friends stated that she was shy, polite, punctual, extremely considerate. And prior to her marriage to Gerald, she worked in a radiologist's office. And all of the articles stated that she was a happy person. Now, what happened was on August 24th, 1975, at about 6 p.m., Gerald's in the barn, as he is most times, and he's milking cows. It was a hot day, and Pam brought him out some iced tea and told him that she might go on a walk. She had told her parents and told her friends that she'd gained a little extra weight since being married and was trying to work it off. At 6:30 that night, she called Gerald in the barn on the intercom system and said that she was going to take the walk, and she was going to first call a neighbor to see if the neighbor wanted to go with her, this other lady. She called the lady. The lady said that they had some friends coming over and she couldn't go. So Pam and her husband talked, and her husband said, hey, stay off the highway. Why don't you take a walk down the main road, or little country road, towards railroad tracks? And she goes, she would. And she walked south on West Grove Road, across Highway 38, toward the Penn Central tracks. Let me cover that for you. So, this is a map of the area. This is Highway 38 in Indiana. This is Richmond, Indiana, down here, not too far away. But they lived on a farm on this highway. There's a lot of the highways, but they were living on this highway. She walked just a little bit down the road, walked down West Grove Road. Now on the maps, it's not showing this as West Grove Road now. It's another name, but West Grove Road is down here. But back then, this was all West Grove Road. Somewhere between the highway and the tracks, everyone believes she just disappeared. Now, Green Forks, Indiana was right over here. And that's the Green Forks River. That's a pretty good sized river. Now, sheriffs said in this area there are 3 or 4 also large ponds belonging to farmers that they swept. Didn't find anything. This is Pam Smith. Young, 23 years old. Well, she disappears on her 6:30 walk. At 8 o'clock, Gerald finishes his chores. Comes into the house. Pam's not home. He went out and he drove around for the next hour and a half looking for his wife. Couldn't find her. And he calls the sheriff. Sheriff comes out. They do the same thing. They drive all around, contact all of her friends, relatives. Nobody's seen her. Nobody's heard from her. The neighbor did confirm that Pam did call her and ask to go for a walk, but she couldn't because she had friends coming over. So the Wayne County Sheriff takes over the investigation. And the following day, August 25th, the search starts. Well, the Wayne County Sheriff's Office brings in helicopters, planes. They get 200 searchers. They bring in canines from the state police. And they put up 7 days of nonstop search. And they cover all of the cornfields surrounding the Smith farm. It was a frustrating event because Gerald was also out searching and trying to help in the effort to find his wife. The hell that man went through. So 7 days puts it into September. And the state police call up Gerald, and this is routine, and say, hey, we want you to come in and take a polygraph test. So he goes to their barracks, meets with a state police professional polygraph examiner, takes the 3-hour test. The result of the test is he wasn't involved in the disappearance and doesn't know where his wife is at. He passed. One of the strange things about the case is that when Pam was younger, her friend said that she used to get these disturbing calls from somebody. Always bothered her. But that really didn't play into this because none of that stuff had been taking place recently. But Gerald has to go back to being a farmer, milking the cows. And nothing happens on the case for months. 5 months later, August 30th, 1976, a road grader named Reed Vincent, working for an adjacent county, Henry County Highway Department, is grading a road called 575 East. And it's east of Strawn, Indiana. A lot of these rural roads are not paved, and they usually get graded once a week. And Reed said that 2 months earlier he was on that road and he saw something strange out in a field, cornfield, and he didn't think much about it. Well, he was on the road again, March 30th, 76, and he saw this thing in the field, about 20 feet off the road, kind of under a bush. And he stopped and he got out this time. There was a body. And he felt bad because he thought in his mind he saw this 2 months earlier, and he didn't report it because he didn't get out and look. Thought it was a dead animal, probably a cow, he said. But he called the sheriff. The sheriff responded. They found a naked skeleton. And the sheriff and the state police do an intensive search. And 100 feet from the body, they find clothing, and they find a wedding ring. There's really only one woman missing in that area. That was Pam. They contact her parents, contact Gerald, and the parents and Gerald ID'd the clothing and the ring. That's her wedding ring. A dental school in Indiana confirmed the identity through dentistry. The coroner took custody of the body, and they did a chemical analysis of what they could, of what was left, and they were unable to determine a cause of death. Law enforcement and Gerald always believed there was foul play involved. Here is Green's Fork, where she disappeared. Here is the location east of Strawn, where she was found. 13 air miles, and the news report said it was about 20 driving miles. This is almost all cornfield. Why do I tell you that? A couple of reasons. First of all, I've had a lot of cases happen in cornfields. And these are not random acts. Something happened. A couple of the cases I've talked to you about, it was obvious some people got dropped in. Water is in this area. That's weird because Indiana doesn't have a lot of water. So, point of separation. Something happened to Pam after she left that barn. Exactly where it happened, nobody knows. Cause of death, unknown. State police brought out 2 different canines. Neither one picked up a scent. And she was missing clothing. What happened? This area of Indiana, I've talked about other cases within a 60-mile radius of this place. Not sure what happened. There's enough there for me to include that in a study. Predominantly, it wouldn't have mattered if the grader had reported it 2 months earlier. Maybe there would have been more to study. Maybe. Hard to say. But something very unusual happened to Pam Smith. And I'm sure till this day, since this happened in 75 and Gerald was only 25 at the time, he still has explicit memories about what happened to his wife. And the parents had to live a lifetime without knowing really what happened to their daughter. Well, those are the 2 cases for today. You know, I've talked to every significant lady in my life, and I've told them that sometimes when you walk into an area that seems serene and safe, you can't be guaranteed that environment all the time. You need to be careful. You need to carry a gun. You never walk up to a vehicle where someone could reach you or grab you. And I don't care if they pull a gun on you, a knife on you, you never, ever submit and get into a car. Ever. If you get into the car, you're dead. You fight for your life. Run. Again, you need to be careful. I appreciate you being here. This segment covered a lot of ground, and I want people to be aware of our environment today, and you need to take care of each other. Be cognizantly aware of relatives and friends. Sometimes the happiest people are the most unhappy people inside. How can I appreciate you being here? Do something kind for someone in your life. And that doesn't mean a relative. It doesn't mean a friend. You can just be a passerby in the parking lot, holding a door, helping someone who's disabled get in and out. It'll make yourself feel better. And it helps someone in need. Paulides out.